At the 2014 Sochi Olympics, I found myself standing amongst the US Olympic coaches and athletes in what they called the pit. Watching the first event of these Olympics, I asked myself, what does it really take to be successful at this level? After all, you need to be the best of the best just to represent your country, and you're competing against the best in the world. So technically, that's the best of the best of the best, just to get here. But how do you win once you're here? How do you not just podium, but win a gold medal? After watching these athletes for many decades, what I've learned is the key to success isn't so much how talented you are or how much information you've stored in your mind, but how well you use your mind. After all, what's the point in having all this talent and knowledge if you can't unlock it? In the science world, this is called cognitive control or grit. I just like to call it mental toughness. What does all this mean to us? How do we really unlock the power of the mind? To me, I want to talk to you today about what is the most important mental skill I've seen, and that's being task-orientated in opposition to being ego-orientated. The ego is what causes a lot of drama, shall I say, in our lives. The ego is always needing approval. Think about that for a minute. If you need approval from one person, how often do you need that approval per day? And if you need approval for 2, 3, maybe 5 people, how often do you need that approval? Well, what happens is it creates a hyperactive mindset or even a manic mindset that's always seeking this approval. Now, how does an ego mind get that approval? It gets it through outcomes, because outcomes is the quickest way that we can achieve that approval. The problem with outcomes come from the future, and that's where fear originates from. Think about that for a minute. Anything you're afraid of, it always originates from the future. I'm from Australia, where crocodiles are from. In one of the sessions with my mentor, he asked us, what are you afraid of? And I couldn't think of anything at the time, so I said crocodiles. He thought that was funny, and so we went through that. And he talked about if a crocodile come through the door, what would we all do? Well, he said we'd all take off for the door. It's the thought of what the crocodile would do is what creates fear. Those people that are afraid of flying, what are they really afraid of? The flying part they're good with, it's the thought of crashing they're not too fond about. See, all fear comes from the future, and that's the problem with having an outcome mindset. Now, those of you in attendance that are thinking, wait, I'm outcome orientated, do I have a big ego? No, not necessarily. A lot of us that are perfectionists in today's day and age are really good people that just seek the approval of others because they're trying to please people. Perfectionists fall into the same behavior patterns as ego-orientated people because they're also outcome-orientated. And that's one of the challenges today. So the ego is always in need of approval. Hence what the research says, ego-orientated mind does not persist at things. It also doesn't have good work ethic because it's not seeing the results. It's not getting that approval until it achieves that outcomes, and outcomes are hard to achieve. So hence, ego-orientated mind does not persist, they don't work hard, and they set really extreme goals, either very easy or very hard. Easy to guarantee their success and feel good about themselves, or extreme, so if they don't achieve it, they can say, well, I wasn't supposed to achieve that anyway. An ego-orientated mind also does not perform under pressure because of the anxiety that comes. As soon as you focus on that outcome, anxiety, fight or flight is triggered, and that's what locks the mind. In athletics, we call it choking. In the music industry, it's called a memory slip, where you can't remember all your life experiences and everything you've worked on. So what's the opposite? A task-orientated mind. A task is not a to-do list. It's not a mind list. I did my washing, check. A task-orientated mindset is more permanent. Think of it as a skill. When you're task-orientated, what the research shows, they will persist. A task-orientated mind will persist because it's seeing the growth. It also will work hard because of the motivation from the skill development. It sets goals that are challenging and a little beyond their reach, goals that will stretch them but not stress them, and they perform under pressure because they're able to focus on the task and unlock the mind. So let's bring this to life. One of my favorite stories from my coaching days, I coached for a decade at a university over here at BYU. And I had an athlete that we recruited once from Russia. Her name was Olga. This girl did not have fast twitch muscle fiber, nor did she have modern day top spin strokes, which means she was not super talented. But she was humble and she was task orientated. And so we went to work building a game around her strengths that she did have. Long story short is she progressed every single year because her growth was so rapid from being task and performance orientated. By the time she's a senior, she's 61 in the country. She qualifies for the top 32 players in the fall to go back to Columbus, Ohio. We get back there, and she's drawn to play the top 25 player in the country. So 61 against 25. She goes out there executing the task, plays great, taking the ball early, playing quick explosive points because that worked around her strengths. Gets up 4-1, 4-1. So if you don't understand the greatest game that's ever invented, tennis, you've got to get to 6 games to win the set. So she's up 4-1, doing great. All of a sudden, her mind flips into, wait, I could win this. That's an outcome-oriented mind. That's an ego-driven mind. Instantly, anxiety will occupy the space. What will happen to her skills? Fight or flight kicks in, she tightens up, and now she's just a creature of habit. She ends up losing that set 6-4, so that's 5 games in a row, and is down 4-1 in the second, spiraling. This is how Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader. This is how we have our Darth Vader moments when we're spiraling, always just seeking that approval and needing validation. I'm trying to pull her out because in college tennis you can coach on the changeover, so I'm trying to pull her out of this mindset, but nothing's working. 4-6, 4-1 down, 2 games away from losing the match. I tried reverse psychology. She sits down at the changeover and I say to her, Olga, hurry up and get this over with, I'm hungry. She snaps her head at me and I say, well, you're playing terrible. Outback is closing. Hurry up and get this done. I want a steak. I told you I'm from Australia and we love steaks. So she's super mad at me now, not at herself. Goes back, focuses on the task, literally comes back, wins that set, and wins the last set 6-1. 4-6, 6-4, 6-1. That's how powerful the mind is when it's in the right place. On the way out, I look at the drawer because I always train my athletes, don't focus on who you're playing. Focus on your game, build your strengths, and build your skills. As we're walking out, I look at the drawer who she has to play next. #1 player in the country. I was thinking, whoa, this is going to be tough. The next evening, it's the last match on because this other girl's #1 in the country. So again, 61 against #1. Olga goes out, executes unreal, perfect tennis, loses the first set 6-4. Again, what do we tend to do when we do great, we put our best effort in, but the results don't come the way we want? What happens? Again, that's outcome. But she stayed focused on the task, played amazing. This girl that she was playing had never lost more than 2 games in a set, and Olga got to 4 in the first set. On the changeover, she sits down and she says, what do I need to do better? And there's a task again. There's a skill-based mindset. I kind of laughed because she was playing amazing, and she gave me that look again of just tell me what I need to do to win. And that's what a task mindset leads to. It leads to playing to win, where an ego-oriented mindset leads to playing not to lose. I said, fine, this is how great a coach I was. Keep doing everything you're doing, just do it quicker. That's it. I don't know why they paid me, but Olga goes back out there, does everything she was doing, better than she's ever done, and gets up 5-2 against the #1 player in the country. This girl's trying to get ready to go pro. She's looking at sponsors. Her parents are up in the back. One parent is chain smoking. The other one's walking around. It was pandemonium. I was loving it. It was awesome. Olga's up 5-2, 40-15, hits a serve out wide. The girl goes out there, hits a really bad return, and just smacks her racket on the ground, and she's done. Olga has this little short ball to hit down the line to win the second set and gain all the momentum. The ball hits the top of the net and pops up. So this other girl decides to run for it. Barely gets there in time and hits it cross court for a winner. She didn't even hit it off her strings. It came off her racket. She got lucky, which happens. Olga goes back now 40-30. Double faults. Deuce. Double faults again. Advantage her opponent. Double faults again. Game. Now that's 5-3. She's so mad at herself, she hits 4 returns in a row into the net. 5-4. Can you see how fast this happens? Task and ego can't occupy the mind at the same time. Your conscious mind truly is binary. They can't coexist. And as soon as we flip to that ego-oriented mindset, that's when all the drama in our lives come. And what I've seen in athletics and life, this is the thing that's the hardest for people to manage. The task is not cool and it doesn't gain attention. It's humility. And that's what the best do. They stay humble because they recognize to truly be good, you have to keep executing your skills. So many people think once it's habit, once it becomes muscle memory, you're good. No, not true. The research shows you need to get the skills in, but once the skills are there, you still have to unlock the skills. And to unlock the skills, we always need to be task, which is also humble. When we get ego, which is pride, that's when all things can fall apart. So here's the other challenge. See, once we start doing well, and I see this all the time with my clients in business and athletics, they'll start to do great, and then what happens? Yep, our big fat egos kick in, and what happens? We start focusing on the outcome, and we lose that momentum and that mental effort we're putting into execution. We got to remember to be task-orientated. Olga, long story short, sits down, and we're able to get her back into a good mindset. She plays really well, but by the time her opponent, you can smell fear. And once her opponent smelt that fear, she settled down, refocused on her game. Long story short, Olga lost 4-6, 7-6. As they're turning the lights out, because it was the last match, Olga sat there and said to me, what do I need to do better? That's a task-oriented mindset. And that's why she'd been so good in her career. But what was interesting to me through this whole match, how quick it changes. And I've used this so often with my clients, we've always got to work on playing to win. We always got to work on staying task-oriented. So if there's 2 words in closing, after the Olympic experience and all these years of studying and working with these elite athletes, I think this applies to everyday life. We need to be confident. We want to be confident in our skills, not other people's skills. We need to be confident in who we are and our own skills. And then second, we want to be humble. Confident humility. Those are the 2 key words I hope you remember from today. Confident humility. Confident in your skills, but humble enough to recognize no one's entitled to success. We have to work at it, and we need to stay focused on the task if we're going to truly maximize our potential. Thank you. Appreciate it.